Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'm here with another book review for you. I am reviewing Rain the Earth by A.C. Gaughen, and I am so happy I finally got around to reading this. I'm kind of late to the game. I actually won a giveaway from the author with a signed ARC copy back in like October, November. This book came out in January. Anyway, I finally got to it in April and I loved it so much. This was a 5-star read for me, and I want to talk to you guys a little bit about it and tell you why I think it's a really underrated book. This is the first in a new YA fantasy series called the Elementae. I will say this, it's very good, it's very well written, it is very dark and has a lot of mature themes and mature elements to it, has a lot of trigger warnings, which I will get to. I would not give this to a young teenager. I think this could easily have been packaged as an adult fantasy novel. It is marketed as YA. I would say mature teenagers and adults. So this is an interesting one. Like I said, it is fantasy, it's set in a fantasy world, but a lot of what it tackles is this issue of abusive relationships, with a good dose of magic and feminism and political intrigue and all of that. But our main character, Shalia, is a 17-year-old girl who agrees to an arranged marriage in order to save her family and bring peace between nations. So she ends up becoming the queen of the Bonelands and marries the king, and has always had examples of really positive marriages and love and kindness and relationships. And she marries this man and has great hopes for their marriage, but she quickly learns that he is extremely controlling, he is quite violent, and so she ends up in this very abusive marriage. Meanwhile, dealing with a lot of external sort of political issues and religious issues, and there's a lot going on in this book, but it's pretty much from Shalia's perspective and her dealing with all of that while also being in the midst of this relationship and trying to handle that. I thought this was so well written. It was so powerful, and yeah, I do really recommend it. There is a line later on in the book where she says something that I just thought was, it was like one of my favorite lines in the book that I thought was so powerful, where she's talking to somebody and she tells them that she's afraid that she's starting to mistake the absence of cruelty for love. And I just thought that that was so striking and so powerful, and really speaks to the heart of what I think it is for a lot of women who are in these abusive relationships, where they start to take those moments where there's not cruelty in the relationship, or where their partner feels bad for their actions and is being nicer, as love, and starts to hope that things will get better, even though they don't, and it's a cycle. And so you really do see that depicted here in a really great way, but ultimately it's very empowering. It is, like I said, a very feminist book. I just really loved it. I think it is beautifully written. It's an important story, and one that I think needs to be told. I loved the world, I loved the characters. I'm really looking forward to continuing on with the series. I think book 2 comes out early next year. And Shalia is just like such a strong woman, but also cunning when she needs to be, and she does what she needs to survive. So she's such an amazing heroine. There's a lot that I could say about this book, but I very strongly do recommend that you go check it out. Like I said though, it is darker. There are a lot of trigger warnings, so I'm going to read them to you. I have a Goodreads review, so if you want to hear more, I have some more spoilery things in my Goodreads review that I talk about, so that is always linked in the video description down below if you want to hear more of my thoughts in detail about this. Let me just tell you what's in here. There are trigger warnings for emotional abuse, controlling behavior, physical abuse, borderline sexual abuse, torture, killing, experimentation on people, loss of family members, infidelity, miscarriage. So while this book is, I think, very well written and very compelling, the content is quite mature. One thing I will note is that none of these sexual scenes are very explicit. They rely more on like generalities. They don't like look away necessarily, but they're not very explicit. So, and there aren't that many of them either. So yeah, so that's not so much a concern here, but just in general, there's a lot of pretty intense, dark content. However, you know, if that sounds like something that you can deal with, I do recommend you go check out this book. It gave me so many feels. Like, I am not usually one to get very emotional over books. I know there are a lot of people who are, where they frequently get emotional in books. I am not one of those. Like, books rarely make me very emotional. This was one that did, where after I finished it, I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know. And I couldn't put it down is the other thing. I wasn't expecting it. This was like one that just came out and surprised me. Like, I thought it would be okay, but it kind of came out of left field and really wowed me. I couldn't put it down. I read most of it in a day because I just couldn't stop. And as intense as it is, like, I wanted to read more and I wanted to see what happened and I wanted to be in this world and all the feels and like, yeah, guys, it's a good one. I've been like telling my friends they need to go pick it up and read it because I want to talk about it and it's so good. So that is Rain the Earth by A.C. Gaughen. Yeah, highly recommend. Go check it out. I think it's an underrated one. If you have read this, if you have any thoughts on it, talk to me in the comments down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to see more. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time.